yourself a cold one.
Let's drink 'em, huh?
And listen to Ross Tucker break down the top college prospects on another tasty edition of The College Draft.
Yeah, it is Daddy Soda time here on the College Draft Podcast presented by DraftKings. I think my voice is a little bit better than it was last night on the Ross Tucker Football Podcast, but let's be honest, it's still not my regular voice. It's still not great. Thankfully, I've got Emory Hunt, who I love, at FBall Game Plan on Twitter, Football Game Plan on YouTube, footballgameplan.com/2022 draft guide. Absolutely love when we get the emails coming in or the tweets of you guys getting Emory's draft guide, which is amazing. So please keep them coming. I'm at Ross Tucker NFL on social media. We are at Ross Tucker Pod. And you can, of course, check us out on YouTube, youtube.com/Ross Tucker NFL. Emory, I'm fighting, man. I'm fighting.
Hey, man, I don't blame you, man. And you're doing a good job. It's that time of year where, things start to whether you're tired or the voice starts to break down a little bit, but that's all right. We're teammates. I'll help carry the show to keep your voice from going AWOL for a couple of days after this week.
The funny thing is, I feel fine, and I didn't even drink this weekend. I didn't even have any daddy sodas. Like, I have no explanation for this at all. So it's Monday, February 28th. And what we want to do today is talk about what matters and what doesn't matter at the NFL Combine, which I guess sort of starts today, as it's registration for the tight ends, the quarterbacks, and the wide receivers. So registration, pre-exam, orientation, interviews. Let's first talk, Emory, about your schedule. Obviously, I can tell you're still at home in Jersey. So what's your schedule this week?
Yeah, my schedule is tonight. I'll go out to Indianapolis. So I'll leave on a 7:45 flight. I'll get out there around 10:30 or something like that. And then tomorrow, bright and early, I'm on CBS Sports HQ. I'm on CBS Sports HQ all week doing combine coverage. Tomorrow I'm on. I want to say the 6 o'clock wing of it. There's a bunch of us going out there, so I think I'm on the 6 o'clock wing, but I'll be there getting interviews with GMs and coaches. That's what's tomorrow. Then Wednesday, Thursday morning, I'm on 8 a.m. to about 12:30 interviewing prospects. Friday is the same thing. Some days I'll double dip, like I'm on that 4-hour block in the morning and on the evening block like around 4 or 6 o'clock, something like that. And I'm there through Sunday. So I leave Sunday, but I'm on Saturday coverage and all throughout the week. So it's gonna be a fun week for me. That starts tonight, getting out there, and as anytime I go somewhere, first order of business is get reservations for restaurants, because you want to find out the good eats, you want to get good spots, because when you go to these big events like the Senior Bowl or the Combine or the Super Bowl or places or things like that, where an influx of media coverage will be there, we know the restaurants will go up and go crazy with reservations. Case in point, St. Elmo's is the one everyone goes to in Indianapolis because of the cocktail shrimp and the good steaks. But I was able to get a reservation in for Tuesday night, but it's at 9:30. So I mean, I don't eat that late, but it's always good to have a reservation in hand in case you need a place to go eat. Who knows how long you're going to be out on these hits with CBS Sports? So I always have reservations lined up all throughout the week when I'm in Indy.
I love it. The priorities, man. Priorities. So this is kind of a weird question to ask you because you're going to be there all week covering it. But I got to ask you anyway, how much value do you get out of the combine?
Here's the thing, Ross, and that's a great question because before I was able to go to the combine, and here's something that people need to understand that want to start in this business and want to be in this business. They think everything is always easy access, right? I mean, the reason why I used to see me a lot at these small college games because I couldn't get credentialed to major college games. So I used to go to games where I was getting credentialed. So before I was getting credentialed to go to the combine, I was like, man, whatever. I was hating on it a little bit. So like, man, whatever. You don't need to go to the combine. It's just the guys working out. I can see what I need to see out there on TV. But when I finally got credentialed, and this was only in 2018, finally got credentialed to go to the combine, and I was like, wow, the value of being there as a media entity was huge because of all of the information, all of the, inside insight that you get from people that are there, not just the players that are talking up on the podium that you get to interview, but all the people that are walking around Indy. It's like the Senior Bowl in that aspect to where, I remember one time I went down to the Senior Bowl. It was like my first year and going down in like 2013. And as soon as I walk into Lad Peebles, first dude I see is my old college teammate, Elvis Joseph, who played with the Jaguars, and he's a running back like me. And I'm like, yo, I didn't see you in years. And he was like, yeah, man, so we ended up hanging out the whole damn day. He was coaching at Southern University, and he was out there trying to get a job with the as a scout in the NFL. So I said all that to say you have a bunch of guys like that just walking around Indy in the convention center. Last year I ran into, well, 2 years ago I ran into a lot of my college coaches, that were out there, guys that I've talked to at college that are head coaches, in college at smaller schools that are out there trying to either get jobs in the NFL or watch their guys work out. So it's one big, you know, information gathering session. So it was great to be out there, and you get little tidbits from, when you ask these questions to coaches and GMs and and the players, you find all kind of inside information that you may not see on film. So before I was ignorant about the experience because I couldn't go. But when I got there, I was like, man, there's so much good information that you get. Case in point, I remember I was talking to Legarius Sneed. He was at the table by himself. No one was talking to him, but I was talking to him because I knew about his game because I was at the La Tech Marshall game. And I was like, man, they had you playing, safety. He was like, "Yeah, I just played safety this year." He said, "I was playing corner, but this year they moved me to safety. But I'm more of a corner." He told me right then, he was like, "Man, I'm an outside corner all day. Like, so I just did safe. I just played safety because they need me to play safety." I said, that's interesting because that way I wouldn't have graded him as a safety. But if he had to play there, like this year for Kansas City, he has experience in doing so. So I wouldn't have gotten that nugget had I not been at the combine.
So, if you're ever feeling like I'm feeling, it's a great time to start Athletic Greens. I started Athletic Greens a couple weeks ago, mainly because they're a sponsor, but I've since found out everybody takes Athletic Greens. Maybe that's why, even though I lost my voice, I feel great. I feel really good. It's got 75 high quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to help you start your day right. Special blend of ingredients supports your gut health, nervous system, immune system, energy, recovery, focus, aging, everything. It's lifestyle friendly, costs less than $3 a day, and has over 7,000 five-star reviews. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1 year supply of immune supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/draft. Again, that is athleticgreens.com/draft to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. All right. So Maybe we should rank what's most important to least important at the combine, because looking at it, they've got, let's just do tight ends, quarterbacks, wideouts, since they arrived today. So, registration, pre exam, orientation, interviews, then general medical exam, potential special studies, interviews, media, interviews, ortho exam, NFLPA meetings, measurements, bench press, on field workout, and then they leave. So, what would you say, Emory, is the most important part of that?
The most important part is, I think, the most important part of the entire combine is the medical. You want to make sure there's no flags that pop up, and and that could be unfortunate, but it also could be life saving for some players, because of what they could find. And you hope that you're healthy going into the NFL, because the NFL, as you know, Ross, will use any little thing to try to not pay you or draft you or take you high or anything like that. They want to find a reason to knock you. So you don't want to have any medical issues, number one. I also feel like 1A is the interviews. I mean, the amount of information you can find out about a person is huge. Now, granted, the interviews are not you're not in there. It's not an interrogation room to where you're in there for hours, but you're in there for enough time to where people are trying to figure out what type of person you are, what type of personality you have, and if you're gonna lie to them or tell them the truth. And I always tell players in college that I get a chance to speak with, if they get the opportunity to go to the combine, to make sure you if they ask you a question, they already know the answer. So don't lie to them about the truth. If you got suspended for smoking weed, or you got into a fight, or you had a shouting match with your coach, just be upfront and honest about it. Because if you lie about it, that's a red flag. If you try to shift the blame, that's a red flag. Just be upfront and honest about what happened, and move on. So I would say medicals, interviews are kind of and 1A in terms of importance at the combine.
So, give me an example of what questions they ask these kids at the combine and what the coaches are trying to get out of it.
It's funny because there's some teams I've heard have psychologists in there that are asking certain questions to because they know which kind of, almost like, if I say, Ross, are you a cat or a dog person, right? And if you give an answer, let's say, oh, a better one, if you're apples or orange person, and so some people may say I like apples because they're sweeter. I just like apples better than oranges. But from a psychologist standpoint, they'll say, well, an orange shows that you have to work a little bit for the reward. And apples is readily given to you right there. Like, but on the flip side, you're like, well, what if I just like apples? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, so and players, I think, because of how people tend to leak out what goes on in interviews, we know some people just may not be comfortable talking to people in a room that they don't know, or people that they are unfamiliar with, or you're trying to ask questions or answer questions that you think was the right answer, instead of just answering it honestly. So let's say if someone says, are you a cat or a dog person? You say, I just like dogs. um it doesn't mean I don't like cats. You just ask me which one I prefer. So is some of those questions. They'll ask you questions about your college career, and sometimes they'll just dive right into it to try to elicit a reaction from you, like, hey man, you come in big, Mr. Big Shot wide receiver, you're all conference, all American, you want a Bolitnikoff, and the first question they ask you is, man, against Alabama you had two drops in the second quarter, and you kind of got frustrated after that. Well, what happened there? And you just, it's like, whoa, I thought she was going to tell me how great I was and tell me how glowingly my career was. You jump right into some, some controversy and drama, which is great because, as we both know, football is sudden change. So you go in there with a game plan thinking they about to ask you X, Y, and Z, and here they come with A, B, and C. And so some of those questions that they asked, I tend to try to get a response, get a reaction. Some are general, I need to get to know you questions. What's your favorite food? Tell me about your upbringing, certain situations like that. And if it's a guy that has like some major red flags, they don't wait to jump. They don't beat around the bush. They just jump right in. Hey man, you had 2 arrests. You had a suspension here. Let's go through all of these things, and they'll use their 15 minutes or so going through those issues to see if what you're saying checks up with what they already know.
So, um, I think football character is really important. I think football IQ is really important. But I also think you got to be a little bit careful with judging people just based on the interview. You know, one of the best guys I ever interviewed was EJ Manuel. EJ Manuel was a great kid. And like, I was blown away talking with him, blown away. He couldn't really play, you know? Like,
Mhm.
I mean, EJ Manuel, Emory, was prototypical size. He was athletic, good arm. He could run, like, great interview, but he just couldn't play consistently well enough. It's almost like Daniel Jones, and maybe Daniel Jones ends up being great now, but there are certain guys that check every box except being good, you know? And so I guess while I think the interview is important, I think you got to be a little bit careful because part of that is how a kid was raised, and some of them are just better and more comfortable in that setting than others.
Absolutely. And it's funny because I was on a show last week and a guy um asked me a question. It was an Eagles radio show, and he asked me a question about the 3 first-round picks, and they want character guys and guys with great character, and I'm just sitting there like, I hear you, but I want talent. You know what I'm saying? Like, I need good players if my job depends on it. And if I need some dogs. You can go out there with great character guys, great choir boys, and that's all great and dandy and great for the community, but you out there losing 49-6. Like, I need dudes that are good dudes, but I need talent first. It's a talent game. It's a Jimmy's and Joe's game. And so football character is good. I need you to be good enough to where you don't get yourself suspended, arrested, killed, all those major things. But I don't care like how you answer questions in terms of, if you use proper enunciation, if you use the King's English. I need to know, can you play? And I wish and I'm glad there's no. I think they're doing away with the Wonderlic. But I wish there was some sort of football test. But I guess the biggest football test is your film. Like, if someone gives you great answers, like for example, everyone loves to talk about, oh, a quarterback did great on the board. He got up there, he drew it on the board, and he killed the interview. That's great if you're hiring him as a quarterbacks coach, you know. But every time I watch the film versus pressure, he balls up like a little Junie bug. He ducks in his shell like a turtle. He can't find an open target, and he gives up the worst, turnovers in football history. But he knows what he's supposed to do. He knows everything. He can recite it back, 10 times over, but the application of his information it's not there. While you have one guy that may not be the best interview or the most polished interview, um, and some of his answers may come from a different perspective than yours. And but when you go out there and watch him play, he's calm under pressure. He's cool as a cucumber. He executes the offense flawlessly. He goes out there and plays great situational football. So he has a great high level of football intelligence and spatial and situational awareness of knowing where to go, how to get it done, how much time, like all that stuff. He's processing that information. But in the interview, like, well, he couldn't really draw up their play up on the board. He couldn't really explain it. That's because in his mind, he's probably like, all right, how can I explain this from my perspective of what I see and how I'm going through? And sometimes what you do is just a reaction game. You just react to something. But a guy that can explain it, detail like the coach, goes out there and stinks, that's what you have to avoid.
Such a good point. Such a good point. I've also seen guys that are great in practice, quarterbacks, when they got the red jersey on.
Yeah.
It's a little bit different when they can actually hit you. By the way, football might be over, but now it's time for the madness. DraftKings, the leading sportsbook app, is here to help you and your friends get in the game with different ways to fund your DraftKings account. Did you know you can fund your DraftKings account with cash? Yes. Just sign up in the DraftKings Sportsbook app, select Fund with Cash in the payment section, and get a digital barcode. Then just take your cash and barcode to any one of our thousands of participating stores. Super easy. And while you're there, why not pick up some DraftKings gift cards? Don't know what to get your buddy for his birthday? DraftKings gift card. Want to say thanks to the neighbor who helped you carry a sofa up 3 flights of stairs? DraftKings gift card. Want to give yourself a Father's Day present? DraftKings gift card. Done and done. Just visit DraftKingsGiftCard.com to find a participating store near you. March is here. Get in the game with these two awesome, fun, and easy account funding options. Absolutely love it. Void where prohibited. Minimum $5 deposit. All right, Emory, let's get into the physical testing. Okay? Physical testing. Out of the on field stuff, what, if anything, matters to you and do you really take seriously?
Man, that's another good one, Ross. Because again, everything, you never want to let workouts erase what you watched on film. You don't want to get into that habit, which is why I always want to have my draft guide and grades done before the combine. But this year is different. I just finished all the offensive skill players, so while I'm out there, I'll try to knock out some offensive line. But when I get back, I'm strictly grading everything and being done. But I said all that to say a lot of guys in media, in draft media, and some coaches, because this is the first time coaches are getting introduced to the process. Scouts know sugar from you know what because they've been watching these guys all year long. The combine is when the coaches get involved. So coaches and some folks in the media, they'll see a guy run a 4.3. We saw this with Stephen Hill. He ran that 4.3, and everybody was like, "Oh wow, he's 6'5", runs 4.3." Randy Moss, and it was like, bro, what makes Randy Moss has nothing to do with him running a 4.2 or being 6'5". All of that just makes it look cooler that he's doing it. That's what makes Randy Moss Randy Moss. His ability to go up and catch the football, has great timing and has great hands. Two of the things that Stephen Hill didn't have, but folks got fixated on the combine workout and just blew it. And that's why he went high in the second round, and he didn't have the Randy Moss like career. So you can't let the on-field workouts erase the years of actual practice. On the practical skill of what you're going to actually be doing in the NFL. But for me, what I like to see, let's say from everyone outside the quarterback, how they move athletically, because that can tell you a lot. If you're a fluid mover, um, it's an easier transition than being a stiff athlete, because stiff athletes get hurt. And you don't want to be stiff. And so just want to see how guys move, how guys take to coaching, um, and how they are able to handle competition. Because as much as everyone is out there trying to just do their best and give it the old college to pro try, you're out there watching dudes that could potentially get drafted higher than you and keep you out the league. So, oh, this dude ran a 4.2, or this dude, he caught all 7 of his pass attempts. I'm going out there and try to do the same thing. I want to catch 8. I want to catch mine cleaner than he caught his. And so you're out there competing amongst each other, even though you're collectively as a group working out. And for quarterbacks, I want to see how well they can quickly get timing down. I know timing takes time with new receivers, but how quickly you can get into a groove, because it's no different than a real game situation. Starting quarterback gets hurt. You hadn't worked with the first team all week. You got to go in there and play, and the timing better be right, because we need you to win. I just want to see how they can quickly get up to speed with uh, receivers from different areas, different speeds, different hands, ability to catch. I want to see how quickly they are able to adjust their game to meet the needs of those receivers they have running routes.
So I think all pieces of information should be considered. I think certain pieces of information are much less valuable than others. Do I care about a broad jump or a vertical jump for an offensive lineman? Not really. Do I care about a 40-yard dash? Not really. I mean, I guess I'd rather them jump higher and further than less and run faster than slower. But I don't know, man. Like, my 40 times sucked. And I would challenge people to go watch all 25 games I started or preseason games. And if there's a screen pass or a downfield play, tell me who the first guy is down there. Like, I mean, I don't know. I never once felt like my 40 prevented me from making a block on a field. But yet, Bruce Campbell runs a 4.6 at 310 pounds, gets drafted in the 4th round, can't play a lick. But he's 315, ran a 4.6. It's really, I agree that it's nice. You'd rather have good numbers than bad numbers. But once you start saying you like this guy because of the numbers, that's when you've messed up.
Right, because you see a trend. This was something with Kenny Pickett that uh, the hand size numbers, right? And it's like, so now we're fixated on hand size. At one point, it was quarterback height, and now it's all right. Well, this wide receiver doesn't run this 40, so it's become too much, in terms of you're worrying about something that folks can't control. Like Pickett can't control his hand size. Uh, Tavon Austin can't control his height. Calvin Austin can't control his height or his weight. You don't want him to be bloated just for the sake of being bloated. Um, and so you don't want to focus on, oh, well, this guy doesn't meet this measurable, so he's off our draft board. That's just dumb. Like you said, all information is good information, but some are more important than others. And I feel like when you start to try to, okay, this guy is broad, the new thing is arm length. His arm length is this. Prime example. Everyone as I'm grading wide receivers, right? And I noticed a trend here. A lot of the top receivers this year are guys that are at the combine, or some of the top receivers are coming out of the SEC. So I'm grading these SEC wide receivers that are at the combine, and I just noticed a trend. Man, every time they played Auburn, the numbers dipped a little bit. I wonder why. Well, every time I'm looking at the Auburn tape of these prospects, guess who lines up on these wide receivers? Roger Mccreery, who before the season everybody was talking about, as a first round pick easily. Somewhere along the line, it got let out that his arm length is short. Next thing you know, you don't hear about him in the first round. I'm like, well, wait a minute. I just watched him, give Jameson Williams the business, give Mechie the business, give the wide receiver from Mississippi State the business, Valus Jones, the business. Every team they played that had a top receiver, Traylon Burks, they had their toughest out against Mccreery. Give me that dude. That's the dude I want. That's the guy I want playing corner. Why is he not talked about as far as being the first overall pick in terms of that position? Or the first cornerback taken, because everybody's focused on arm length. Well, he had 14 pass breakups. I guess if he had longer arms, he had 14 interceptions. So either way, he's breaking up the football. So if you get too fixated on certain measurables and checking off boxes, or we taking this guy off because he has 33.5-inch arms instead of 34, then you're just playing losing football. My team would beat your team like 10 times out of 10.
Check this man out on social media at FBall Game Plan. That way you will see all week the great stuff he's doing for CBS Sports HQ. You can also check out his YouTube page, Football Game Plan, or most importantly, right now, buy the draft guide, footballgameplan.com/2022 draft guide. I'm at Ross Tucker NFL. You can always watch this show on YouTube, youtube.com/Ross Tucker NFL. I promise I wasn't even drinking this weekend, and I'm going to go take a nap. The keg is kicked. I am all tapped out.
Thanks for listening to the College Draft Podcast. Make sure to also subscribe to the Ross Tucker Football Podcast, Fantasy Feast, Even Money, and The Business of Sports. All available at Apple Podcasts, rosstucker.com, or wherever podcasts can be found.
A lot of times on the show, I mentioned DraftKings. Here's what you need to know. You got to be 21 or older, New Jersey, Indiana, or Pennsylvania only. New customers only. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER, or in Indiana, 1-800-9-WITH-IT. By the way, if what I was talking about included a deposit bonus, doesn't always, sometimes it does. Deposit bonus requires 25 times playthrough, and deposit bonuses are paid out in site credit.